Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Paul Hastings, and hopefully I won't take too much of your time this afternoon, but what I've been asked to speak to you about this afternoon is the thorny subject of piracy and people stealing content, rebroadcasting on the internet, and whose responsibility is it to actually control that and to make sure that that doesn't happen. I'm going to very briefly run through some slides this afternoon with the agenda that's set in front of you. Many of you here won't know who Friend MTS are, so just very, very briefly, our mission statement is designed around the idea of detecting, deterring and disabling piracy wherever it happens. Now that's for broadcasters, content owners or pay TV operators. Our job is to try to make sure that premium content remains secure and remains only on the platforms of the people who are paying to receive that. Our client base is many and varied, so we've got clients all over the world, in the US, Europe, Middle East and into the Far East. We have some examples behind me here which probably sum up our sporting prowess in a more concise fashion, but we do also cover non-live content for movie studios and for general entertainment companies. So that's us. Piracy as a problem sometimes is slightly misunderstood, so I thought it might be just useful for a quick whiz around the block on how people pirate content. Principally, there are two ways in which people can steal content, live content, and restream it on the internet. The first is to steal it from the back of a set-top box. Very easily done now. Take an HDMI cable out of the back and then strip out the HDCP, put it into a server and upload it to the cloud, and instantly it's available for people to be able to watch on a variety of different devices. Even easier, because you don't need a set-top box, is to use a laptop and an OTT subscription, making use of some freely available software like OBS. You just screen scrape what's on the screen in front of you, and again, in exactly the same way, you can upload it to the cloud and start to monetize that video. Now, how do you monetize it? It used to be that there was a predominance towards websites and streaming websites. Over the last 12 to 18 months, we've seen a significant shift away from websites to a variety of other devices. Websites are still a threat, but there are other devices that have suddenly become a considerable element in the mix. So we see apps as a large proportion of the video consumption devices. IPTV streams, massive increase in the type of streams that are being delivered over the internet. So for example, last weekend I think we were monitoring over 9,000 IPTV streams that were unique IPTV streams that were available on the internet for consumption on devices like the IPTV box you see in front of you. And then there's the evil Cody, the word that everyone feels very nervous about in the world of premium content, that is being stolen and rebroadcast and repurposed and reused and consumed using Cody. Then in the middle, there are the social media platforms. So people like YouTube, obviously Facebook, Periscope, Twitter. All of these are places in which people can either host video or they can use the platforms as a method of signposting where you can go to get this pirate video. So really, what you've got to think about is that content can be pirated from both of those sources. It's really easy to do. Very easy. I mean, literally within 5 minutes, you can be restreaming content illegally if you're so minded to do. DRM and CA won't protect your content fully. Now, 100% you need to be employing proper DRM, proper CA to make sure that your content is secure to the client. But once it's arrived at the client and it's been unencrypted, that's where the issue of anti-piracy and anti-piracy services come into play. And the other element that I'm sure everybody who is a content owner, pay TV operator, OTT operator here would understand, that this is costing you a lot of money. So other people are taking your content, taking your rights, and monetizing them to their advantage and your disadvantage. So the next stage is to sort of examine how this thread runs through. So what I call the holy trinity of pay TV, it's a bit like thinking about a three-legged table. Those three elements that you really need to consider in this whole process. First of all, they're the content owners. So in the case of pay TV premium content, it's predominantly sports leagues and movie studios. They are reliant on a methodology of selling their content to people who will then be able to distribute it. So the distributors, pay TV operators, pay TV channels and platforms. And then finally, and possibly the most important element in this, is the subscriber. The subscribers, basically you, me and the guy next door, because it's our service, it's our pockets that are funding all of the services and funding the creation of that content. So how does that all fit together? Starting sort of on the right hand side, working backwards, subscribers are the bedrock of the whole pay TV industry, and the piracy landscape is something that should make pay TV operators, content owners, very, very, very nervous. Because there was a YouGov survey, this is focusing on the UK, which was published this week, and it showed that nearly 5 million people in the UK were illegally streaming content using a variety of different IPTV boxes, Android boxes, or apps. The layer below that becomes even more interesting. So, quite number heavy, but 31% of those people who are using those pirate services believe that they will cancel their pay TV service or one of their pay TV services in the next 12 months because of the availability of pirated content on those platforms. So 31%, 1/3 of all of those people consider that they'll be able to swap out their pay TV service for pirate services and not be paying the relevant subscriptions for that. The other final piece is that of those people who are using pirate distribution methods, 37% of those are in that 18 to 34-year-old bracket. And those are the people that pay TV operators and the traditional distribution methods have been reliant on feeding in at the bottom to continue the pay TV ecosystem and to continue the virtuous circle of feeding back into the creation of content and the delivery through the pay TV service. And it may sound a little over dramatic, but those sort of numbers should ring some spectacular alarm bells, I think, for pay TV operators, because it starts to create an existential threat to the existing pay TV service. So, content owners, premium sports leagues, these are the guys who are movie studios are responsible for all of this great content that you can see on the screens. And what can they do about controlling this piracy and the issue of piracy? One of the key tenets of the distribution model is that in the vast majority of cases, content owners are selling exclusivity into a market. So the distribution partner, the pay TV operator, is usually expecting to make sure that they are the person who's in control of being able to distribute that content. Therefore, there is a responsibility from the pay TV operators back to the content owners that they should be fulfilling that part of the bargain. Now, as the copyright owners, they have some significant advantages in the world of anti-piracy, because as a result of being a copyright owner of the images themselves, they can take action against all instances of piracy that are found. It doesn't matter where the signal emanated from, doesn't matter whether it's one channel or the other channel, it belongs to them, they can take action against that. And they can and do make use of services from companies like Friend MTS. However, part of the problem is that there is a significant proportion of hosting sites and infrastructure providers that are what we call non-compliant. So basically, the traditional model of anti-piracy is that you find out where the content's being hosted, you send a nice letter to the website, and in the ideal nirvana world, the content is taken down and the problem goes away. Pirates themselves have worked this out and have decided that then they quite like making the amounts of money that they're making from hosting illegal content, so they shift their services to what we call non-compliant infrastructure providers. So basically, websites hosted on infrastructure in jurisdictions which don't have great IP protection and do not respond to those takedown notices. So that means that the content owner can have a significant role in protecting their own content, but there is a big subset of pirated and pirating infrastructure that's beyond their reach. And for that reason, there's been a move to start to pass the responsibility for enforcement down or up the chain to the pay TV operators and the people who are licensing that content. And one of the reasons for doing that is that these distributors have a significant advantage over the content owners. They have a direct relationship with the end subscriber, and they know who they are delivering that content to. So there's no mystery here, there's no just pushing it out, it's not broadcasting, you're actually delivering it to a set-top box, or you're delivering it to a session on an OTT platform. Those set-top boxes and the OTT devices can be tracked. You can understand what's being delivered to those devices and what people are doing with them. And this means that pay TV operators and studios doing OTT services can introduce subscriber level identification or watermarking. And these services allow companies like us to find who the content thieves are, not chase around on the internet looking for where the servers are that are hosting the content. It's actually identifying the individuals who are responsible for stealing that content. It also creates an environment where you have a scenario where the content owners themselves are mandating that the pay TV operators or the OTT platforms introduce things like subscriber level watermarking. If you want access to 4K content, if you want access to premium sports, increasingly it's going to come to the point where if you don't do subscriber level identification on set-top box and on OTT, you simply won't get access to that content. So the question ultimately then is, whose job is it to protect this content? And as ever, in most of these situations, there's no clear responsibility for one person over the other. It's a collaborative approach that's required. The content owners themselves have a significant advantage in certain environments because they have the ability to act on copyright, and they have the ability to be able to attack the pirates based on the fact that they own it, and it doesn't matter what the distribution mechanism is. The thing is as well, though, that content owners can and will raise the bar for content protection for their licensees. So as I said, pay TV operators will be required to offer subscription level identification. They will be required to make sure that they are the people who are able to understand which one of their content subscribers are stealing and rebroadcasting that content or channels. And the other element is that this level of protection needs to be a standard for all licensees. There's no point in a content owner saying to one provider, one pay TV operator, I want you to be doing subscriber watermarking, but I'm going to allow their content to go to other pay TV operators around the world that aren't doing that, because the pirates are smart. The pirates will work out very quickly where that content is protected and where it's not protected, and those will be the places that become the sources of piracy for the next movie or the next game, the next soccer match, the next basketball match, whatever it is. So there needs to be a collaborative approach. There needs to be a standard, responsible, contractual obligation that's pushed down to make sure that all distribution partners are making sure that they are protecting content in exactly the same way as the rest of them. So that's my contribution to the debates this afternoon. Happy to take any questions now, but if there are any other questions that people would rather come and perhaps have a demonstration of the kind of services we've been talking about, we're over at the other end of the hall here, South Upper Hall, 10702.